Are you brand new to the world of Monster Hunter? Do you want a helping hand in grasping the concepts, terms, and systems? Are you looking for a simple guide to give you helpful tips and tricks to get you started on your journey? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. Welcome to Monster Hunter 101. First, let me congratulate you on becoming a Monster Hunter. Your decision to begin playing a series that is beloved by millions, has spanned the last quarter century, and is enjoyed by players for hundreds of hours at a time, is one that I want you to cherish. And as such, it is my intent to aid hunters new and old by providing information, concepts, and strategies that will either help you over the learning curve, or get you an extra bit of longevity out of your hunting experience. Personally, Monster Hunter was a difficult franchise to get into. A decade ago, a friend introduced me to Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate for the Nintendo 3DS, and I will be the first to admit I did not enjoy it. Playing multiplayer with my friend, I struggled and could only play for at most a couple hours at a time before having to put it down and let my frustration settle. It took well into 60 hours of playtime before I had that moment where it clicked. And to this day I look back on that fondly, a paragon of why I love these games so deeply. I am eternally grateful to that friend in sticking it out with me in those early hours, as had he not, I may not have found this wonderful franchise that I consider as my favorite series of all time. I was privileged, in that I had the assistance of someone who was experienced with the games to help guide me, teach me, and otherwise encourage me so that I could learn the basics and build a solid foundation that has led to the now quite literal thousands of hours that I have invested in the series. Not everyone new to Monster Hunter has that person to help them, and that just won't do. So hello, you can call me Zygo. Allow me to be your person and provide all I can to help you in Monster Hunter. Today's episode will primarily focus on just some of the most basic principles that may be beneficial to understand. This video is operating under the impression that Monster Hunter Wilds is the game you are starting with, so we will be discussing details specific to this entry in the series. However, some of the concepts and terms may very well apply to many of the previous games in the franchise. Some items that are staples of gaming in general, such as health and stamina, may not be touched on in depth, as we're only assuming this is your first Monster Hunter video game. And this is just that. Monster Hunter is a video game, and meant to be enjoyed in whatever way you want to enjoy it. Some of the things we discuss may be subjective or objective, but at the end of the day, you choose how you want to play the game. This guide is not telling you how you should play, but rather offering insights so that you can better understand the mechanics and make decisions yourself. With that out of the way, allow me to introduce you to the prevailing mechanic of all Monster Hunter games. If you take Monster Hunter in its entirety and boil it down to its essence, remove all the layers and menus and everything, what is the gameplay? This concept is referred to as the core gameplay loop, or rather, the system that keeps the player engaged. In Monster Hunter, the loop is simple. You prepare for a quest, you do that quest, you get rewards for completing the quest, and you use those rewards to prep for another quest. We will break down these steps further and examine elements of each. Just know that all of the steps have importance, and that this cycle is the driving force behind the game. Starting with preparing for a quest, this step encompasses everything a hunter does to lead to more successful hunts. You will spend a majority of your time preparing, as each quest you undertake has varying challenges that may require different tools to better your outcome. Probably the single most important tool is the hunter's weapon. When you start your game, after character creation, after cutscenes, once you can control your character, you are met with the first challenge Monster Hunter offers, choosing a weapon. In the current generation, there are 14 different weapon types to choose from, shown here. Each weapon handles a little differently, so it is my recommendation that you take some time now to play with each of the weapons for a little bit just to see what feels good in your hands. If you are struggling with a particular weapon, don't be discouraged. Swap to a different weapon type and see if it feels better. Know that your choice does not lock you out of future options. No matter the weapon type you choose now, all the other weapon types will always be available, and you will have the option to try any of them at any time. Weapons are partly defining of hunters, as players will often discuss what weapons they main, meaning the weapons they enjoy using the most. Don't let that fool you into only using one weapon. Many hunters will learn one weapon only to have the hunger to learn more weapons afterward. We will go over weapons a little more in depth towards the end of this guide, but for now, if you found a weapon you like, it's time for the next step, prepping your inventory. When you are in the thick of battle, you have almost instant access to an item pouch that has 25 slots to be filled with items of your choosing from your personal item storage, or items you manually retrieve while in the field. What items you decide to hold in your pouch can be the difference between victory and defeat. Learning what different items do, and their effectiveness, is important. Take, for example, the herb. This is a basic medicinal plant that in previous games would give the player a small health recovery when used. In Wilds, this item cannot be used directly, but rather it can be crafted into a potion that can heal the player a small amount. By navigating to your crafting list, we can see that item number 1 is the potion. By selecting the crafting option, we can see how many herbs we have in our item storage. We can also see that we can convert one herb to one potion from this menu, allowing us to be able to better use this medicinal item. If we scroll down to the next item on this list, we see a Mega Potion. This item requires the potion we just made, plus 1 honey, another material we can gather from the environment. As the name would imply, the Mega Potion heals for much more health than the potion will, but the increase in effect comes at the cost of increased resources consumed to make it. Many items in this list are important for various effects. Antidote and herbal medicine can cure poison, life powder and dust of life can allow you to heal yourself as well as nearby allies, cool drinks and hot drinks will protect you from the effects of certain environments, and many more. When you can, you should familiarize yourself with the items on this list, the effects they have, and see what resources are required to make them. Once you have made items, don't forget to add them to your item pouch. You can only hold a certain amount of each item, and it is dependent item to item. For example, I can have 10 potions in my item pouch, but only 5 well-done steaks. Also note that while I have 10 potions and 5 well-done steaks, only 2 slots are used, as a full or partial stack of an item only takes 1 item slot in your pouch. With your weapon selected and your pouch sorted, only one thing remains: filling your belly. A hunter needs nourishment if they expect to fight a large monster, so be sure you are eating or have recently eaten prior to hunting. In previous games, a canteen served as the location to purchase a meal. However, in Wilds, we use the much more humble, portable barbecue grill to prepare our food. This is obtained early on in the game once you have returned to base camp after beating the Quematrice and talking to Tom in Chapter 1-2, Village of Whispering Winds. After this point, a meal can be made so long as you have a ration in your item box, and rations can be obtained with regularity from Tom and the other provisions felines throughout the different locations. As shown here, using a single ration will give you 50 extra health and 150 extra stamina, and the effect will last 30 minutes. This is valuable alone, but besides this, additional meal effects will also be granted, with even more available as the game goes on. For the sake of sticking to the basics though, just know that eating grants increased health and stamina, and should always be in effect during hunts. So to recap, when preparing for a hunt, be sure you have the weapon you want to use equipped, make sure your item pouch has all the necessary items, and make sure you are still under the active effects from eating. Now the fight can begin in earnest. When you have a mission started, your goal is to hunt the monster within the time limit and without you and your allies running out of health. This fainting, referred to as carting, due to the animation of being dragged back to camp on a wooden cart, will result in less monetary rewards each time it happens. If carting happens 3 times total between you and any non-NPC allies in the quest, the mission will be declared a failure and you will be forced back to base camp. This is obviously not the preferred outcome, so what can you do while on the hunt to increase your survivability? The environment around you is chock full of interactables that will aid you in a fight. There are plants that you can collect, like the herb and honey, to allow you to craft healing items on the go. You can utilize certain plants or endemic life in the environment in order to give yourself healing or other positive status effects. There are also environmental traps that can be used to cause direct damage to large monsters, or traps that can increase damage windows. Loose vines to ensnare your target, paratoads to paralyze them, even boulders that can be brought down on their heads for a quick injection of damage, as well as a knockdown, providing additional openings for attack. Be aware of your surroundings and use them to your advantage during a hunt, even if it means running away where the monster can't chase you. An entire episode could be spent on our next topic, fighting the large monster. Once you have located your mission objective, it is time to put all of your hunter tools to use. In the introduction of preparation for hunting, I said, probably the single most important tool is the hunter's weapon. This is a bit of an exaggeration, as truthfully the hunter's greatest tools are not something you can equip. Large monsters do not have a visible health bar. They do not have a visible stamina gauge. They do not equip weapons. And yet, they do have health, they can run out of stamina, and they will attack you. In turn, you, the player, have 3 things that can aid you in your fights: your eyes, your ears, and your experience. When the fight begins, the monster will start attacking you. Use this initial time to watch the monster. See how they move, see what they do. The more you watch your target, the greater understanding you will have in battle. Learn what moves are quick and should be avoided or blocked. See when they overextend themselves and provide an opening for attack. The clues, or tells, the monsters give for their attacks are important to see to avoid taking damage. Many monsters will telegraph their attacks, meaning you can see what attack they are preparing ahead of time. However, don't forget to listen to the monster as well. Some attacks will give an auditory cue, letting you know the next attack may be a doozy. Lastly, there is no greater teacher than failure. You will get hit, you will cart, and especially early on, you will fail missions. While these events can be discouraging, these are the missions that make you grow the most as a hunter. Do not be afraid to fail, as from failure comes experience, and the experience gained from one monster can be directly translated to all the monsters of the same species, and indirectly translated to all the monsters across any of the games. If you fall, get back up, dust yourself off, and try again. Let's continue our discussion about large monsters, specifically how to hunt them. Large monsters have different biology from one another. Some monsters have wings, others have tails, others still have both, some have neither. It is valuable to take note of not only what your target is comprised of, but how they use it. While causing damage to the monster, you will see damage numbers pop up. These numbers tell you 4 pieces of information in their placement, their color, their amount, and occasionally secondary effects. Seen here in my fight with Quematrice, let's look at the placement of the damage numbers. The spot where the number pops up is roughly indicative of where your attack connected. In this moment, the damage number appears on the head, so my attack connected with the monster's head. Take note now of the color. The number is yellowy orange. This indicates that the spot I hit is a good spot to continue to hit, in this case, the head. If the number pops up white, this is a worse spot to hit. These locations are referred to as hit zones. Good hit zones are what you want to aim for throughout the fight. As you hunt, look for the orange numbers and remember what areas these correspond to so that you know where you should be attacking. Next is the amount of the number. The higher the number, the more damage you are doing. This is affected by the hit zone you are striking as well as the attack you are using. Take note of the numbers and try to maintain your attacks on the locations where the numbers are orange and the numbers are larger. Lastly, you may see additional bonus effects around the damage numbers. This is an indication of if you struck with a critical hit or are hitting a weakened spot that has been wounded. We will discuss critical hits a little later in the episode. As we just mentioned, Wounding. As you fight the monster, you may notice that certain parts like legs or bodies sustain injuries. As you learned in the introduction hunt with the Chatacabra, holding the focus mode button will allow you to see the wounds you have created on a monster's body. Attacking these wounds leads to higher damage numbers and has potential for monster trips where they fall to the ground and flail, allowing you to stack up damage quickly. Sometimes monster parts can break, giving advantages in a fight. Other times, entire parts of the monster can be severed, giving a great advantage as well as a free carve. Traditionally, this is only the tail. Be sure to collect the carve once the monster is not an immediate threat. Once you have done sufficient damage to the monster, it will show signs that the hunt is nearing the end. It may limp as it moves or stagger easily, and it is made all the more obvious if you look on the minimap and see skulls on the icon of the monster. Once enough damage has been dealt, the monster will fall, and the quest will count down to the mission complete screen. Be sure to carve the monster, as the parts you obtain are important for the final step in the core gameplay loop. With the monster defeated, we return to the base camp with the spoils we earned from the hunt as well as the pieces carved from the monster. Now we begin prepping for the next quest, and step 1 is to see if we can make any better weapons or better armor. Looking at a weapon can be a little overwhelming, but we will break down each element seen here fairly quickly. Attack is just like damage numbers. The larger the number, the more damage your attacks will do. I should also note that in Wilds there is an option to either enable or disable something called Weapon Attack Powered Display. In short, if this is disabled, it will make it easier to compare weapons if they belong to different weapon types. Affinity refers to your chance for critical hits. The percentage indicates how often you will do a critical attack. If you have 50% affinity, then 50% of your attacks will do critical damage, which is an additional 25%. Affinity can also be negative. If you have negative 30 affinity, then 30% of your attacks will do 25% less damage. Some weapons may also do additional damage in the form of an element or have other status applying effects. These amounts are recorded here, again with the higher number meaning larger effects. As you can see, this weapon does not have an element or status, but by looking at the weapon trees we can see others that, if crafted, will. Just as monsters have hit zones, so too do they have resistances or weaknesses to certain elements or statuses. When selecting your weapon for a hunt, you may want to consider an elemental or status option dependent on the monster you will be fighting. Sharpness is the item on this list that plays the most crucial role on a hunt. Sharpness refers to how sharp your weapon can get, and how long it stays in each level of sharpness. The sharper your weapon, the more damage you will do. Sharpness is denoted by a color on a spectrum. Currently in Wilds, the sharpest weapon you can get is white, followed by blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. This gauge tells you how sharp your weapon can be with the right skills, how sharp your weapon will start, and by comparing the bars to one another, how long you will remain in each sharpness level. While on a hunt, sharpness can be restored using the whetstone, an item automatically added to your item bar. Be sure to keep your weapon in tip-top shape while hunting for maximum damage. Slots are a mechanic that exists later on in the game, so we will glaze over them mostly. Just know, as you improve your weapon, eventually slots will allow for a special item to be equipped to your weapon, granting you more abilities called skills. Last, we have defense bonus. Simply put, some weapons inherently will add extra defense to your armor, increasing your overall defense, called armor rating. Only a few weapons have this defense bonus, so while this may provide a little in the way of survivability, it should be treated as a little bonus, and not the defining reason you choose one weapon over another. When upgraded, weapons will also gain skills, like we described with the slots earlier. These skills, however, cannot be removed from the weapon. We will touch on skills at the end of this episode. Armor works in a similar method to weapons, providing bonuses and ratings that when understood will help us in selecting what works best for our hunts. Defense refers to the amount of armor the piece you are looking at provides, so this Hope Mask gives us 2 defense. Down here in the corner we can see our defense rating with all the armor we currently have equipped. 1 natural defense plus 2 armor per piece, with a total of 5 pieces equipped, head, chest, arms, waist, legs, we get an armor rating of 11. The higher the rating, the less damage you will take from attacks. Slots work the same way as with weapons. Items called decorations can be earned later in the game to slot into our armor and impart skills to us. It is worth mentioning that in Wilds there are 2 types of decorations, armor and weapon. The respective decorations can only be slotted into their namesake, and only when slots are available on your equipment. The next 5 categories reflect your armor piece's elemental resistance: fire, water, thunder, ice, and dragon. Some monsters are capable of dealing elemental attacks, like Quematrice's Firetail. These attacks deal elemental damage and can cause status effects. From the fight earlier, we can see I became fire blighted, which eats away at my health until such time that I remove the status, in this case by rolling in water. The higher your elemental resistance, the less damage you will take from elemental attacks, and you can even avoid blights at higher resistance levels. Lastly, we can see that this piece of gear gives a skill, specifically level 1 stun resistance. Skills are an integral part of our hunts, allowing us to augment our fighting style. The primary way we enable skills are through the innate ones baked into our weapons and armor, as well as an additional equipment piece that comes a little later in the game, talismans. The secondary system of the slots and decorations allow us to fine-tune the skills, but for the beginning of the game we won't worry too much about this. Armor is organized into sets. These sets are named and have 2 different options to choose, the green circle and the yellow diamond, completely arbitrary shapes simply denoting the sets themselves. These options are purely aesthetic in the beginning, meaning the only difference between the leather headpiece that is green circle and the same piece but yellow diamond is the look of the headgear. Eventually, some armor will have 4 different options, wherein 2 will give some benefits while looking identical, and the other 2 will provide different benefits, and again, be identical. This system allows us to not only pick a piece that we want for its stats and skills, but also gives us an aesthetic choice. Which piece looks better? Skills themselves are important for increased damage, survivability, and general utility. As I scroll through these equipment pieces, you will see many of the same named skill. This is due to the fact that many skills have more than one level. By wearing armor that has the same skill, you are granted the additive level of that skill. My default armor grants me 2 points in stun resistance and 3 points in divine blessing. As such, I have level 2 stun resistance out of a maximum 3, and I have level 3 divine blessing out of a maximum 3. By pressing the corresponding button or key, you can see what the skill does. As shown, stun resistance gives us a reduction to the time we are stunned by 30%. However, because we have 2 pieces of gear with 1 point of stun res, we have level 2 stun res, giving us a 60% reduction. Looking at Divine Blessing, we see that with the max level of 3 enabled due to our chest, arms, and legs all having 1 point each, we will now occasionally take 50% reduced damage from a monster attack. These skills help us in combat directly, however other skills, such as Botanist and Geologist, allow us to gather more material from out in the field, allowing us to have greater resources in preparation. Skills like Speed Eating and Item Prolonger allow us to consume potions faster, or allow the effects of certain consumables to last longer. When picking armor, take stock in what skills the armor pieces provide, and select pieces that are beneficial to your playstyle. It should also be noted that certain armors give additional skills when worn in a group. Shown here, if we were to make 3 pieces of Chatacabra armor, we would enable the group skill Flexible Leathercraft, which gives us an increase in gathering speed and prevents knockback when gathering or carving. This group skill from Quematrice provides Scaling Prowess, which helps us mount monsters. Group skills may exist on different sets, so a piece from one set and 2 pieces from another that share the same group skill will count and activate that skill. Set bonuses also exist, similar to the group skills, however these bonuses are only available if you are wearing the corresponding number of armor pieces from the same set. Again, This is a concept for later in the game. For now, focus on selecting armor pieces for the skills they offer and the defense rating they provide to your overall defense. I hope this guide helps you get started in your journey with Monster Hunter. I know that something like this is probably more applicable toward the very beginning of the game's launch, but I was not making videos at that time, and new players are joining every day, with more expected as festivals and title updates roll out. While I only very briefly talked about all the various elements discussed in this video and left out a lot of things, these are the fundamental elements that make Monster Hunter what it is, and as such require a solid grasp to enable new hunters to succeed. If you liked this video, leave me a thumbs up or tell me in the comments. I would enjoy making this into a series, but only if there is an interest in it. If you liked my video and want to see more, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more. And if you made it this far, I appreciate you watching. Now go out there and hunt those monsters. Goodbye for now, but not for long.